All right. Hello. Today, what I wanted to talk about is continuing in the series of how to increase your presence on Pinterest. If you already have a presence on Pinterest, right now is the time for you to begin reviewing your profile. We talked about that in a previous video, so you can go back and look at that with your profile. And this time I wanted to talk about your boards and what you can do with your boards. So as you know, Pinterest is definitely a search engine. It's more of a search engine than it is a social media site. And the way that people find what you have to offer there, what you show, is through keywords. So your keywords are very, very important. In the previous recording that we did, we talked about your profile and the importance of having your keywords in your profile. The same is true for your boards. And so the first thing that you need to do when you are reviewing your boards, reviewing your presence on Pinterest, your profile, your business profile, is that you need to look at your board layout and see what you have there. So your board layout is something that you need to rotate every month. If you can't get to it every month, at least do it every quarter. Once a quarter would probably be enough to rotate your boards. So the very first board that you want to have appear is your product board. This could be a store board. Let's say you have a Shopify store. You can name the title of your board the name of your store. If you don't have a store, that's okay. It's just a product board where it could be your business name and then the word products. It makes it very clear that when people come to your profile on Pinterest, the very first board that appears is everything that you have to offer. The idea behind this is that people will look at your profile periodically to see if they want to follow you or not, or to see everything that you have. They want to know what you're about. And if they only have 5 seconds to look, they need to see your product board first, be able to recognize it at a quick glance. And then they may really love that and start following that product board, or may want to follow all of your boards. So in order for me, what I do when I go to someone's profile to decide whether or not I want to follow them, the first thing I look at is I look at their about section to see if that's been filled in, to understand what they're about. And that's in the profile. It's the about me. The next thing I do is I look at their boards to see what kinds of boards do they have, and it gives me an even better yet idea about who they are and what they're about. Are they a person? Are they a business? What are they representing? What kinds of things do they have to offer? What do they like to share? Do they create their own stuff, or are they mostly sharing other people's stuff? Either way is okay. But I want to see if it's going to fit with the things that I like to share and the things that I would like to include in my boards. So the very first board that you need to have is your product board. That's going to have everything that you have for sale. And it doesn't matter if you're in a marketplace like Amazon, eBay, Etsy, if you're doing print on demand, Redbubble, merch by Amazon, you can put all of those pins that you create into one board, and that would be your product board. And we'll come back to that in a second about how that's also a really efficient way to help you down the road when you are wanting to add more boards in. Your second board that you need to create is a blog board. This is only if you have a blog. Not everybody does. Not everybody wants to have a blog. That's okay. But everyone is in different places and they want different things for their business. It depends on what direction they're headed in and what's going to work best for them. So if you have a blog, then you need to have a separate board that is filled with articles that are coming from your blog only. Don't put in articles from other people's blogs, just articles from your blog. You could title it the best of and then the name of your blog, or just make it the name of your blog. So you could say it's your business name and then end it with blog. That way people know where to find all of your articles, because they may want to read more of your articles. They just love it. They want to read more of them. They might want to save a bunch of them to read for later, which means they're going to share it with other people. So the second board that you need to have in your board layout in your business profile is your blog board. Okay, now the rest of your boards that follow after that are your foundational boards. These are boards that represent your brand. These are boards that you can pin to all year long. They are evergreen. So if my main part of my business was selling t-shirts, I might want to create a board that is all about t-shirts, and I can pin to it all year long. Or I might want to, if I'm in a specific niche area, then I want to create boards that are based around that niche area, whatever it might be. So if I'm health focused, then I may want a board that is all about fitness. And that's something that I can pin to all year long, especially if I had products that were in the fitness industry. And I could put products in there very, very easily. So a board that is an evergreen board is something that you can pin your products into. You could pin your blog post articles into. You can pin anything into it all year long without any problem. And you could create, as many as you want of those, but don't get too carried away to where it's just really difficult to manage. I think that's where we have to find a good balance. It's really hard to do too many boards. You'll find out that you start duplicating everything that you put in those boards on a regular basis. And it seems like a lot of extra work instead of having just one board to focus on populating really well. So your foundational boards about your brand that represent who you are come next. That could be as many as you want. I would start with 10 boards total, have your product board be one, your blog board be a second, and then fill in the rest, 8 more boards after that are really evergreen. They are things that you can pin to all year long. Now, your next boards that you need to create are your seasonal boards. So right now we're sitting in Q1, and a seasonal board in Q1 is for this year specifically. We have the Winter Olympics that are coming up in February. That is a big deal. So I might want to create a board about the Olympics, and I could make it specific to the Winter Olympics if I want, because I want to get that little trend. I want to hit that season. It's a temporary season, but that's okay. Now, the only reason why I want to create that board is if I have my own material that I can add to that board, along with everyone else's really awesome pins about the Winter Olympics. But if I don't have any products to fill that board, to put it to contribute to my own board, it's a waste of time to create it. Because you need to have something in there of your own that you can put in there for people to see. That's the purpose of creating a trend board or a seasonal board. So if I had, for example, t-shirts about skiing, winter skiing, I definitely would want to get those into a seasonal board about the Winter Olympics. That would be very, very important to include that. You could also include other winter sports. If you have products, your t-shirts that you've created, maybe there are physical products that you already have that you're selling. It could be digital download products. If you've created a guide to watching the Winter Olympics 2018 that you want to give away for free or sell, you could definitely do that. Anything that you can creatively think of in order to tap into that trend, that season, if you have something that you already have created that is one of your products to market. Another type of a seasonal board this time of year would be Super Bowl. I've already been creating a Super Bowl board for one of my clients. I actually created that back in December and began pinning to it slowly to help it get a start. And then now it's getting pinned to a little bit more often to build that up, build more momentum there. And the idea behind that is to be able to put some of that person's material in there as well, which will happen because they do write blog post articles. So even if they don't have a product that has anything to do with the Super Bowl, they do write blog posts that are great for about the Super Bowl. And those can fit in there. And many times that's how people find you, is by reading something that you wrote, reading a blog post, and then they go check out your store to see what you have to offer in your store. Or if you have links in your blog post, it could be a link that sends them over to Amazon, or a link that sends them to Etsy, to Redbubble, to wherever you have something to offer. And so people love to have that kind of material. They get to know you and they feel like they're building a relationship with you and a little bit of trust, where they become kind of your follower. So blog articles can really help you tap into more seasonal boards that you can create. That's what's really nice about being willing to write on a blog every so often, is that it gives you a little bit further reach. You don't then have to invest in tons of products or spend so much time trying to keep up with creating a product for every season. So other seasons coming up that are really big to create a board for is Valentine's Day. That is huge. It's huge. And the Valentine's Day stuff is going wild already on Pinterest. I'm seeing it. I've been pinning a lot of Valentine's stuff all since the beginning of January last week. I started pinning to it slowly in December before Christmas. And the types of things that I was pinning in there did not necessarily say Valentine's Day on the pin, but it would be a great idea to do for Valentine's Day. And so it didn't appear as though at the time that it was very, very Valentine's Day focused or centered. Now the pins that I'm putting in there are very Valentine's Day focused or centered. So an example of that, of what I'm talking about, of before that season really hits big time, I slowly pin into it. And what I'm putting in there is, let's say it's a recipe. It could be a dinner for two or a date night for two. That is a pin that was created that could be used all year long, not necessarily for Valentine's Day. And so I use that material that someone else created to put into the Valentine's Day board, because it fits there too as well. Or maybe it's a recipe about how to make a dessert, and people love to make desserts for Valentine's Day or treats to share. It doesn't have to be a specific Valentine shape to that dessert. It's just, chocolate in general sells well. During Valentine's Day, people like to make different kinds of desserts. They love to have chocolate that they make or buy. And so I was trying to find those things that could populate into a Valentine's Day board without it saying Valentine's Day on the pin. So in December, when I pinned it, people still love that pin, even though it's going into a Valentine's Day board. And then when January, at the beginning of January, then I started finding the more specific Valentine's Day pins to really hit that trend a little bit harder, because Christmas was officially over. And people are loving it. They are saving those now because they're planning ahead to prepare for the next holiday, the next big event, the next season. It's also a board where some products can go into it very, very easily, because people buy all different kinds of products for Valentine's Day. And they don't necessarily have to be a product that says Valentine's or love on it. It could be jewelry. It could be food items, chocolate, candy, desserts. It could be fun t-shirts that are for adults and children, that have maybe animals on them, something that's fun, that's cute, that's cuddly, something warm. If you have anything about love, you can certainly add those products into that board. That's no problem, be easy to do, but not necessarily. People buy toys for their kids for Valentine's Day as a fun gift. Crafts, you can have these little do-it-yourself type crafts that I share from other people of here's how you can make a Valentine's Day craft idea. It's an activity that can be done, or a gift. And those are the types of things that I like to share into that board that is other people's material, because it's not going to compete with your products, with your stuff that you are offering. So make sure that whatever you pin of other people's content that's really great stuff, that it doesn't compete with yours. In fact, it complements it. It all works together really, really well. So those are a few ideas of seasonal boards in Q1, and those are going to be after your personal board. So we had your product board, number 1, your blog board, number 2. The rest of the boards to fill out would be, of what makes sense, would be the boards for your brand, for your business. These are evergreen boards that you can pin to all year. The other boards after that are seasonal boards. And those you can create, if you've never done seasonal boards before, you can create them at the, kind of 3 to 4 months in advance of the season, so that you have it ready to go. Pin to it very slowly, and then begin to pin to it big time when you start getting closer to that season. Now, after the season is over, do not delete that seasonal board. All you need to do is take that seasonal board and move it down to the bottom of your boards list in your profile. So you move it down to the bottom. When the season comes back again next year, you'll move that board back up top and start pinning to it again. The best thing about this is that you've already gotten a head start with that board. It already has a lot of followers. And so it's easy for you to gain even more momentum and traction on it the next time when the next season comes around. So don't ever delete your seasonal boards. Just move them down, and then you're going to pin to them again the next time that season comes up, and you'll move that board up. Okay, after your seasonal boards are your group boards. So you can either go and find some group boards to join. Sometimes that can be hard until you've really shown that you've got at least 10 boards that are populated with lots of pins. You're beginning to get some followers on your own. You're sharing really great content, and you've created some great pins of your own. In other words, I can apply to lots of group boards, but they're not going to accept me unless I really show an amazing Pinterest profile, that I'm an active user, that I have great looking boards, awesome pins, good stuff to share, and the things that I am pinning and sharing matches the group board that I'm asking to join. You're going to get an acceptance of yes more often if you do that. Otherwise, they just ignore you and they won't put you into their group board. You can also create a group board of your own if you want. You can go and find some people that you're following that creates some really great stuff that complements your stuff, but yet doesn't compete with it. So maybe it's someone who shares just amazing recipes or do-it-yourself projects. They don't really, sell products directly in your area, but yet they do something similar. You could ask them to join your group board, and they may accept, and they will be able to contribute to your group board more often. Now, what I find to be better than group boards is the Tailwind tribes. And here's why. You can control the content that goes into your boards a lot easier, and you can pin that content out to all of your boards instead of it just going to one board, like a group board. So if you have someone who is creating some pins and maybe it's spam, which means by definition, according to Pinterest, spam is when the link is going somewhere else. So it's a pin and the link is going to someplace other than what it says on the actual pin. This is why it's important for you to watermark your pins. And watermarking means you put your logo on your pin that you created of your products, of your material, of your stuff that's original. or you put your website name on the bottom of your pin. You could also do both if you want. And that helps people to learn your brand. It helps them to learn your website name. So if somebody, and this happens on Pinterest, they take your pin and they change the URL link to make it go to their website, it's very obvious because it does not match the watermark on the pin. And people know that that person is a spammer and they will report them to Pinterest. They're trying to use someone else's material for their gain in the wrong way. So instead of sharing the content as is, leaving the website link alone in the pin, they're trying to replace it with their own website link. In other words, they're getting greedy. They're getting a little selfish. And they're trying to redirect that traffic over to them, and it won't work because people they'll figure it out. They'll see that that person is spamming. And you also don't want someone in your group board that is creating really inappropriate pins. Maybe there's stuff on the pin that is, it's not good. It's not stuff that you would think is going to be friendly enough for the general public to see. And maybe it just doesn't even fit in the group board to begin with, but it has nothing to do with it. So if I had a group board about, for example, Valentine's Day, I would not want someone pinning something into that board that is about Christmas because it doesn't belong there. And if anyone sees that inside of that board, they're not going to follow that board. So it defeats the whole purpose of even creating the board to begin with, because you're not going to get followers. So if there's someone doing that, they can do that in a group board, and you kind of have to police it. That's the issue with group boards, is you got to spend extra time managing it and policing it, kicking out people who are putting the right stuff in there, and getting rid and deleting those pins, and maybe going and finding new people. And it can be a lot of time that you have to sit and manage the people on that group board. It's a lot easier to create a Tailwind tribe, and then people basically put their pins in that they want to share, and then they go and they pin other people's pins. So now you are in control of the pins that go into your boards, and you know that you are only going to have the really great material inside of your boards. You're not going to get spam or things that don't fit because you're the person who is in charge of pinning that awesome stuff into your board. So to make a long story short here, group boards can be good and work great as long as you have invited people into your group board, or you're working with people who understand not to spam. They don't have a pattern or a history of that. You can really trust that they're going to share some awesome stuff in the group board. And there are people out there like that. But, you kind of have to hang out on Pinterest for a while to find them and to get to know them. And it may be someone that you find in a Facebook group or a friend, or, maybe it's someone in the online community, the e-commerce community, and that they're going to, contribute some awesome stuff. So you create a group board to share together. And that's awesome. You can leverage that and build a nice base of that group board. But sometimes you run into people who don't understand these things, and then you end up with a bigger mess to clean up than what you had, intended on having. And it ends up being more work than necessary. So that's when the Tailwind tribes is really a better choice to use instead. So we got your product board, your blog board, your brand or your personal boards that are evergreen after that, your seasonal boards, and then your group boards. You might want to go into your group boards if you have any, evaluate them. What is the content that's being shared in there? Does it fit in that board? Is it appropriate? Is there people sharing stuff in there that's not good? It might look trashy. Is that group board? What about the description on that group board? Does it have a really great description with keywords in it? Decide if you want to stay in that group board. You can leave the group board if you want. If you are the one that created the group board, you can kick out the people that you think are not doing a good job, and you can invite some new people in. So now's a good time to take a look at your group boards and manage that well. Here's one thing about spammers. If there is anybody, this is the bad thing about group boards, if there's anyone spamming inside of your group board, they will be reported by somebody and marked as a spammer. Anyone else who is also sitting inside of that group board, contributing to that group board, Pinterest will mark them all as spammers, and they don't tell you. What happens is you find out and you notice that none of your pins are being shown in the smart feed, that people aren't repinning. You're noticing that there's no activity. And if you contact Pinterest directly, they may tell you that they flagged your account and you're marked as a spammer. Sometimes if it's bad enough, they will even delete your account on Pinterest. So that's another caution with group boards for why it's really, really important for you to pay attention to that stuff, and why Tailwind Tribes, I think, is ultimately the best solution to help with that. You're at less risk of being flagged as a spammer, and therefore you're going to have your stuff, your pins shown in the smart feed more often. You're not going to have as many problems or as much trouble. Okay, after your group boards is something like a portfolio board. That's not going to be something that everyone is going to use. So for example, a portfolio board would be if you have a business where you provide services, and you could list out in your portfolio board examples of things that you've created or done. And it's really easy to give a person a link to that board where they can check out your portfolio. So it could be services, it could be whatever that you provide that someone might be interested in. It's easier to hand them your portfolio through a Pinterest board than it is to have to write up a document and list everything out. So trying to think of how else you could use that portfolio board. If you're in the services industry, that could work very easily because you could show your work. So example, it might be someone who designs t-shirts. They make t-shirt designs. They could show examples of their designs in a portfolio board, and you could go and check them out real fast to see what they look like or what they are. So that would be great for a graphic designer. It's a nice portfolio to show their work. I'm trying to think of what else that could be in your portfolio board if you were to have one. So that's not something that is going to work for everyone. It just depends on what you're about and what kind of industry you're in, what if you offer services or not. Some people do, some people don't. If you happen to be a virtual assistant, you could provide examples of your work there. Here's something else you could do instead that could be like a portfolio board. And this is specifically for e-commerce. Here's an idea for a board. It could be customer reviews of your products. It could be reviews of your services. It could be a review of your courses that you're selling or your ebooks that you're selling. So that might be a great idea because it is a portfolio. They are testimonies from people, and they are customer reviews that you could create pins for. Take actual screenshots off of Amazon of those reviews. Take screenshots of those testimonies, ask people for testimonies, ask people for reviews of whatever it is that is your product, whether it's a physical product or a digital product. That might really work as a type of portfolio board that you could create to really show more about who you are and your brand. And it helps to really build trust and gain more interest in what you have to offer. This is a really good one. Hi, Teresa. Glad to have you join us. It's no problem if you're late. And these are recorded, by the way. So if you want to follow some of these lives of what we're talking about and getting some training on Pinterest, You could go to YouTube and follow the Pin Traffic Power channel, subscribe there, and every time that I upload a new one, it'll give you an alert, and then you can go and watch it and get some great help, some free training that will help you do well with Pinterest, especially if you are a business owner. Okay, Jan has something that goes with this really, really well. I love this about the topic of a portfolio board and what that could look like for each business, for each person, depending on what you have to offer. She says, what about support for charities? Could those be in a portfolio? Sure, absolutely. You could create a board about your favorite charities, your absolute favorite charities or your top charities. And you could put in there your products that you sell that help to support those charities. Wouldn't that be amazing? And you could also have testimonies from people of how they benefited from that charity, how they were helped by that charity, what it's done for them in their life. If you put that into one board, and then you could share that outside of Pinterest very, very easily, you can get a link to any of your boards on Pinterest. Super easy to do. So if anyone asks, what are your favorite charities? Instead of you taking the time to write them all out, all you do is share a link to your board and say, you can check them out here. And it's like a portfolio of your favorite charities, your favorite nonprofit organizations, the ones that your products help to support. Or maybe you contribute a portion of all sales that go to these charities or nonprofits. That's an amazing idea. I love that. I love that. Really great idea. It's going to build more trust and reputation for you and your brand, help people to know what you're about and what you value, what your products can do, how they can further help people. So if they buy something from you, they know that a portion of the proceeds is going out to an even further reach to support more people and help them. So that's great. Okay. Any boards that don't fit into your entire brand theme, you need to turn them into secret boards. Those are the ones that need to go out into your secret boards. So when you go back and you reevaluate your boards, if it doesn't fit with your brand, meaning that you've been unable to create your own original pin and pin it into that board because you just don't have anything to pin into that board of your own, you've only been pinning other people's stuff, there may be a point where you need to stop and think about that and say, will I ever have anything that I can pin into this board that would be my stuff? If not, then I would just put that into a secret board. You don't need to delete that board. Here's a tip. I learned the hard way that if I delete a board, I lose about 40% of my followers off of my profile. And that's exactly what happened. I deleted some boards that no longer fit into my brand because I was redoing everything. And I deleted several of them. I had a lot of followers on them. I had no idea that Pinterest has about 40% of the followers in your profile actually come from your boards, not the people who actually follow all of your boards, which is your profile. And boy, that follower count went way down really fast, really fast. Here's what I should have done. Instead of deleting those boards, I should have just turned them into a secret board. Then I could have kept those followers. Even if I decided to not pin to it anymore, that would be fine. Just leave it as a secret board. What I could do also is completely revamp that board and just change what the board is about so that I don't lose all the followers. And then I'm able to pin my own content into that board as well. Another suggestion would be to take that board and maybe consolidate. So you might want to move some of that content over into another board because it fits better over there and you don't need to have 6 boards that are all the same. You can just focus on one board And then what you can do next is to organize that board into the new sections that is a feature on Pinterest. So let's talk about those sections. You need to take advantage of that. So when you go into your board, at the very top of your board, it says add section or add a section. You can add a section. I would keyword the title of that section really well from keywords you found on Pinterest. And then you can take your pins and whatever really fits in that category, you can pin them into that category. So if I have a Valentine's Day gift board, which I would want to have, and I keep it as a very general Valentine's Day board, I would want to have one section that is t-shirts, one section that is jewelry, one section that is chocolate, because they're all amazing gift ideas that people would buy for Valentine's Day. But if I organize the board into sections, not only do I have a chance for another keyword to populate by using a great keyword for the title of that section and rank really high in the Pinterest search engine for those keywords on that board, but I can make it easier for the followers and the people on Pinterest to find exactly what they're looking for inside of the board, go right where they want to go, find the product that they want to find faster and easier, and then click buy. Click through that pin and go grab it. So you need to make it easier for your followers on Pinterest to take action. Otherwise, they're not going to take action. They don't have the time. So when they go inside your board, organize it really well using those sections. So if they're looking for a t-shirt that they want to buy as a gift for Valentine's Day, they could go straight to your t-shirt section and browse there. They don't care about the chocolate. They don't want to look at the jewelry. That's not what they're interested in. And if they have to go through your entire board and spend 15 minutes looking for your t-shirts and they're having a hard time finding them, they're going to leave. It's the same as true as if you were to walk in a store. If you can't find the right section that has what you're looking for to buy, then you're probably going to walk out the door and buy nothing because you just don't have the time. It's too much work. It's too much energy. So think of your board as someone going into a store. If they want to buy a t-shirt, they need to go to the clothing section of the store. And within the clothing section, they might have an area that is just t-shirts. That's how you need to organize your board. Think of it that way for those sections. Now, with the ability to put in those titles for those sections and keyword those as well, here is my theory. My theory is, I bet we can take one board and rank it for multiple keywords a lot easier now than what we could in the past. So I don't have to have 10 different Valentine's Day boards. I just need one. That's so much easier to do. So I can have one Valentine's Day board. If I had 10 different Valentine's Day board, then I would end up with a Valentine's Day board, Valentine's Day t-shirts. That would be one board. And then Valentine's Day chocolate, that would be another board. Those are great boards, but it's a lot of work. I would want to take one board, make it Valentine's Day, make different sections within that board. Every section is a different topic. It's a different category. It's a different area. So you can think of now the boards as being a store, and the sections are like mini boards within your big main board, if you want to think of it that way. Yeah, Teresa's saying that she made a mistake reorganizing the boards last week. Yeah, I know. I made a lot of mistakes, and my goal is to help everybody not make the mistakes that I've made, because I've learned the hard way a lot of stuff, and it's caused me to go backwards, so to speak, where it's like, oh, great, now I got to redo all of that work and gain all of those followers all over again. So I feel like I'm taking 2 steps backwards. But really, you're also taking a step forward because you learn the hard way what not to do, and you'll never do it again in the future. And you can also help other people understand that too and be able to help them out. So that's what's happened to me is so I've made those so many mistakes to the point that I felt like I had enough that I could share of what not to do to help everybody else. So with your board sections, now what you could do is if you have a lot of duplicate boards where you're sharing a lot of the same kind of content, maybe they're boards that are the same theme, you don't have to have so many boards to pin out to. You can make it to be less boards and consolidate those boards and just take those pins and pin them over to your other board and put them into sections. And then you can just build up one board and get all of your keywords on that one board. It will be so much easier for you when you do your pinning and your scheduling that you don't need to pin the same thing to 10 boards, just do it to one. When you pin into that board that's organized into sections, you now have the option to choose what section you want that pin to go into. So that's really what makes it unique and highly functional. So these board sections are just, I mean, they're amazing. It's a huge development that's just happened in the last month. And I can't emphasize enough to take advantage of that. I guess this is something that's been requested for a long time. And Pinterest finally made it happen. They figured out how they could make it happen, and they did. And it's just amazing. It's amazing. So it's great. So definitely take advantage of your sections in the boards, and you can condense your boards that need to be condensed into one board to make it less work for you. Yeah, Teresa says that with the boards she was working on, they were all wedding boards, and I understand you can end up with so many different wedding boards, and then what do? It would be easier to condense it if you could into one. Now that's a season. So unless you are, if you're a business in the wedding industry, then you would want to have more boards. Those are your foundational boards, are your wedding boards, if you are specifically in the wedding industry. But if you have products that could be sold outside of the audience of people who are getting ready for a wedding, then a wedding board would then be considered a seasonal board. And weddings happen all year. So there are winter weddings, there are fall weddings, there are spring weddings, and there are summer weddings. So I might want to create one board about weddings and then go fall as a section, fall wedding, spring, summer, winter. Those could all be turned into sections. So you don't have to have those as your separate boards, like fall wedding as one board, spring wedding as another. That ends up being a lot of work, and you'll find yourself pinning the same things into those boards anyways. So it might be easier for you to pin into those sections and just have one wedding board if you're using it as a season. And let's say that you sell jewelry and there are people where they might really want to buy your jewelry for their wedding or for their wedding gifts or for bridesmaids for the wedding party, whatever that is. But yet they could also buy your jewelry for Valentine's Day. So that's what I mean by thinking of, does it need to be a seasonal board, or is this your foundation of your business of what you represent? Like you only make products for weddings and that's it. They're all specific to weddings. Most people out there probably don't do that. In other words, that's your niche area. That's your niche area, and everything about what you're about in your business is weddings. Then you're going to have multiple boards that are wedding themed. But if you are not in the wedding industry, that's not your niche area, but you have some products that would be great for weddings, then you make that your seasonal board. That's a great seasonal board. It's a great trend board where you could capture another segment of the audience and show them what you have to offer that they would probably be interested in. So that's what the power of Pinterest is you can have highly targeted audience members to see your stuff. And you do that through your boards, depending on how you organize them and how you want to create them. Okay, the next thing to organize in your boards with your sections is to update your keywords in the board title Make sure on your boards that you update your board titles. Make sure that they are good keywords from Pinterest. Look at your board description. See if there's anything that you need to change in that board description. So every month, every week, I see different keywords that populate on Pinterest all the time. So every so often, I like to go into a board description and add in more keywords. I don't really want to delete the keywords that I've already put in there that I found, previously. What I do is I just add more keywords in. And there's lots of space in your board description to do that. So if you haven't done that already, go in now and check your board description, look at your keywords, take a peek at the keywords on Pinterest and see if there's more keywords that you can add in. I'm not sure what the character limit is off the top of my head for a board description, but I know it's a lot. You get a lot of room there to use. So update your board titles, update your board description, and you need to add in keyword titles for your board sections and start organizing your boards now into sections by grouping your pins together. Make it really, really easy for your followers to go into your boards and start looking around for what they're looking for, start shopping. Make it super simple so that they can find what they need in 5 seconds. Because that's what most people are. They want to get, I'm the same way. I want to get into the store and I want to get out of the store. I don't always have the time to just browse for fun. I don't always have time for that. So, and even if I do browse for fun, I want to know where I can find stuff in order, of something that I have an idea of what I want to look at just for fun. So make it very, very simple and easy for them in your board to be able to go into your board and find what they're looking for within 2 seconds. That's the attention span that we have, really. We really can't pay attention to too many things longer than 5 seconds, especially when we're very, very busy. Okay, so those are some tips about how to start looking at your boards, how to organize them, how to reevaluate what they're doing. Are your boards working for you or are they not working for you? Your boards, how the layout is, how you organize them, the keywords that you're using, your overall strategy really comes from your Pinterest boards. That is your main Pinterest strategy. So you might have to sit down and rethink it. Get out a piece of paper if you need to and make a list of your boards, write them all out if you need to see it differently. See if there's anything that you want to change about that. Also decide if there are some new boards that you need to create to add in. So maybe you don't have a St. Patrick's Day board yet, and that's coming up in March. And you feel like you've got some things that you could contribute of your own into that St. Patrick's Day board. And you can do it very creatively, by the way. Then you need to take the time to create a St. Patrick's Day board, start pinning other people's stuff into it, and then you can start getting your pins into it. So the creative way to take your products and make them St. Patrick's Day themed so it looks like it fits well into your St. Patrick's Day board. Let's say that I am selling coffee. That's a product that I sell. And it's my own brand. Okay. What I could do is I could creatively make some pins that have shamrocks on them, or they're just green colored. They're the color of the season. They are the color that you typically see for St. Patrick's Day. If you create your pins where you have your product featured on that pin and you simply just change the color to green, maybe use a green font, maybe a different color scheme. Before you were using like a bright pink, now you're going to use green for St. Patrick's Day. If you don't want to do that, leave your background as white. Add in some shamrocks. Some creatively put shamrocks on your pin in different places. Then you could see that, oh, how cute. It's for St. Patrick's Day. They really dressed their products up. That's really neat looking. I like that. And that helps you tap into St. Patrick's Day in a very creative way, even though people aren't thinking of coffee off the top of their head for St. Patrick's Day, is giving them a reminder about your product, about what you have to offer. It's reminding them about your coffee product. And, oh yeah, I need some of that too, while they're looking at the other items that are inside of your St. Patrick's Day board. And your coffee would complement someone else's St. Patrick's Day recipe. And that recipe could be a St. Patrick's Day breakfast, or a dinner, or a lunch, or a craft idea. So they could be sipping their coffee while making a craft with their kids. So you see how it can all go well together? You just have to think outside the box a little bit and be creative. Another idea for creating a St. Patrick's Day pin is you could use a patterned background. Maybe it's a bunch of small little shamrocks that repeat in a background. And that would be the background of your pin. And you, over the top of that, you put your text and you put your picture of your product. And then you put your logo on it. So on the background part of that pin, it looks very St. Patrick's Day. And people love that kind of stuff. You know, they love to see products and they like to see even blog articles or whatever it is. They love to see it in different ways. So it's not always being seen in the same way all the time. They love to see it. What does it look like for Valentine's Day? What does it look like for St. Patrick's Day? They love that. And they will put that into their own St. Patrick's Day board and share it there. So now your product is getting a further reach through those seasonal boards. So that's just one idea or a thought of how do I creatively take my product and make it themed for a holiday. What I did for Christmas with one of my clients is I took their products and I put red bows. I found red bows and gold bows, and I put those bows creatively on the picture to make it look as though the bow was on the item, on the product. And I even had a bow where I wrapped it around the whole pin itself to look like the pin was a gift. And those did very well. And all it was the same pin, but it was like wrapped up for Christmas theme. What I would want to do next on those is I would want to put hearts on them for Valentine's Day. Make them seasonal for Valentine's Day. And then I would want to do like shamrocks on the same type of pins for St. Patrick's Day. If it's stuff that's great for Super Bowl, you could put footballs, lots of footballs on your pin in the background, or maybe it's a football creative icon, little JPEG picture. And I get these JPEGs, or not JPEGs, but PNGs. And you can just get PNGs because you can load those PNGs up inside of Canva or in Stencil. And I go to design bundles and I look for those PNGs that are kind of like background papers for crafters. And I use that and I load that up as a PNG inside of Canva or inside of Stencil. Or I get the individual icons. So I bought some PNGs. They are of hearts. And I got some that are conversation hearts even, that were fun and cute to add on to some pins, creatively do it in different ways. And I got that from design bundles. They are all as individual PNGs. So it's easy for me to load into Canva or Stencil and then just click on it and populate it on the pin and resize it however size I need it to be. So those are ways to create your pins in a way that will work in seasonal boards. Okay, I don't think there's any other questions here, so I think we'll wrap it up for today. But those are what you could do right now to help you with your boards on Pinterest. Your boards are very, very important. It's showcasing everything that you have to offer to someone to encourage them to follow you. So that's how you're going to get your followers. And then creating some awesome pins using excellent keywords. That's the key. That's the ticket to using Pinterest in a way where people can find you, they can follow you, and they will become loyal. They'll become good shoppers. They'll become your fan. And now you have a nice, loyal audience that you're building of people who love what you have to offer. And anytime that you have a new product, they want to see what it is, they want to share it with others, and they're going to be loyal and faithful to you for a very, very long time. All right, let's end it for today. Go ahead and get working on your boards, on your Pinterest boards, and we'll talk again here soon about what else you can do to help you in the new year with ramping up your entire Pinterest presence, especially for your business. We'll talk later. Bye.